Alright, hello everybody, it's Mr. Oman here. We're going to be drawing our three-part phone stand for 3D printing. It'll look something like this when we get done. I'll give you some nuts and bolts to assemble it together, and you'll be able to take this home when you're done. Please have on one of your monitors these directions. So here's the first piece we're going to draw, the base. We'll draw that together following these measurements. These are all metric, those are millimeters you're looking at. Here comes the arm. And then lastly, the shelf where your phone sits. You'll need to take a few measurements of your phone to finish this one. Okay, let's scroll back up to the base. Let's draw that one first. So notice for me here in the top view that it's 100 millimeters wide and 120 millimeters deep. We'll start there and then we'll start working to the inside. And lastly, we'll do the upper part where the hardware goes to finish this piece off. But let's start with the top view. So if you head over to Onshape and get logged in, please click on the three lines right here and slide down to Workspace Units. I've already done this on mine, but yours probably has a length default setting in inches, so change it from inches to be millimeters if it's not already. And the second setting, linear acceleration, millimeter per second. Okay, once those two are set to millimeters, go ahead and hit the green check mark. So you're now going to be measuring in millimeters following these directions and not inches. So here we go. Since this is in the top view, let's pick that view for our sketch. So click the sketch button, select the top view, click on top on the view cube, and let's grab the rectangle tool to start this thing off. Okay, start your rectangle at the 0, 0 origin always. Okay, so things are locked down. Just draw a big old rectangle. Notice it's white right here on the left to right measurement. You don't have to click anything, just type the number 100 and it'll pop into that field. And then it automatically takes you to the other measurement, type 120 and hit the enter key on your keyboard. You should have a 100 by 120. You could use the dimension tool to do that, but that's the slightly easier way to do it. Alright, from here, let's draw a few lines to help us draw in all the triangles that are coming. We're going to draw some of this stuff coming up here, so hang with me. So notice it's 30 millimeters to this corner, it's 60 to the center, and from the center into the middle of the rectangle, or the triangle, excuse me, is going to be 24 in. So remember 30, 60, and 24. Those will come back to us here in a moment. Alright, so I'm going to zoom back over to my rectangle and I'm going to use the line tool this time. You can type L on the keyboard for that or press the button. And let's just kind of go over to the left edge and let's just kind of roughly sketch approximately this triangle. I don't care what the measurements are. At this point we are going to fix it. Okay, hit the escape key in the upper left corner of your keyboard to turn off line. Okay, turn line back on again. And would you guys go and draw a center line right down the middle from this midpoint right here, and then hover over the bottom one. Notice the little square that snaps in. Alright, so that's our middle line. Okay, I don't want that to be a solid line, I want that to be a construction line, so it's not actually part of the object. So would you click on that line for me so it turns yellow and press this button called construction. And notice it changes it to be a dashed line. So that's not part of the object, that's just something there to help you in a moment. We'll come back to that. Let's dimension this triangle now, and then we're going to flip it over. We're going to mirror it to the other side so it's identical. So hit the dimension button for me. And let's dimension from the lower left corner to the bottom of the triangle. This is supposed to be 30, so type 30, enter, and do the same for the top. Type 30, enter key right there, and then we have to tell it how far in is this. So we're going to go from the left line to that point, and you can type in 24, enter right there. Alright, so there is our well-centered triangle. Okay, if you were to go ahead and try and dimension 60 as it says, okay, that would get it locked down. Alright, the rest of the way. Okay. Alright, so now that we've done all that work, we could do it again. We could draw all that. However, we don't have to. Let's use the mirror tool. We're going to mirror this over to the other side. So hit the mirror button right there. It says select a mirror line. A mirror line is this middle line. So think of a mirror on the wall in your bathroom. It reflects. We're going to reflect these two entities. Entities are objects on your screen, so it's going to flip it over the mirror line to the other side. Do this one as well. All right, and the mirror is done at that point. Okay, things are looking pretty good here so far. All right, next up, let's start making some of this structure, these triangles and so on. So our pieces are all 5 millimeters thick. Okay, that's the next number you need to remember. We're going to use the offset button to create these things. It's going to get a little bit messy, but hang with me here. Hit offset. All right, we have lots of things to offset by 5, and make sure they go to the inside. So I'm going to hit the arrow to flip that one over. And notice there's a green check mark on the left mouse button on the screen. That means I have to left click to accept that action. Okay, and then click on that green check mark. It's a lot of clicking here just to do this. I'm going to put my left hand over the O key for offset. I'm going to press O on the keyboard, and let's offset this one. Inward 5, yes, check mark. Press O. Let's do the left side. Make sure it goes inward. Left click and check mark. Let's even do our triangle. Press the O key. I'm probably going pretty fast here, so feel free to pause me at any time and catch up. And just going to be repeating this offset thing over and over. Okay, and you'll kind of get the rhythm of this procedure. Okay, so we've got that far at this point. Okay, now we're going to extend some lines. Actually, I put that on hold. We have one more line to drop down here I don't have yet. I take that back, and then we'll extend some lines. We need this top edge right there, and that is 35 millimeters away. Let's offset that first. Okay, so back to offset, or the O button, and your top edge needs to come down. I'm going to double click right on the number 5 and change it to say 35 and press enter. There we go, and click off to the side and the green check mark. Okay, now we're ready to move on. All right, so we're going to extend these angled lines that we've made. We're going to make them go and intersect with other lines. The button you need is hiding underneath the scissors or the trim, so please hit the pull down menu underneath it, hit extend, or the letter X on your keyboard would work. So here's an example. I want to extend this line. I want to shoot it way over to here, so I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to click on the line that I want to head towards. Okay, and do that to both lines in all directions. So you have lots of extending to do here, so go ahead and make it happen and pause me at any time you like and just catch up to this. Okay, if you've dimensioned everything correctly thus far, these should all just be correct. If you forgot to do any dimensions and things are looking real messy, you might want to hit the undo button and go back and clean some things up. All right, but that's our pattern right there. All right, now that I'm done extending, I'm going to go back to the pull down menu and go to the trim, the scissors, which looks like M is the keyboard shortcut for that. All right, I'm going to trim all this stuff, all these lines that I don't need here. I'm going to clean this thing up. Be a little careful, don't get too wild with this, because you can very easily trim the wrong things. Lots of these little lines need to get trimmed up and cleaned. We are creating kind of the skeleton or the frame of this thing. Whoops, I might have trimmed too much there. Yes, if you get red lines, just hit undo and keep going. All right, so we want these X's to join to themselves, and we're going to ignore the little cutouts that they leave behind. Oops, I trimmed too much there. I'm actually a little confused why I'm getting these red errors. It looks like I'm doing things correctly to me, but let's try it again. Cannot be solved. Alright, I'll come back to that later. Okay, it's starting to take some shape here for me. Okay, if something looks out of balance or lines aren't parallel with themselves, maybe stop and go back and check your measurements or ask for help here, but it's real important we get this right before you move on. Alright, I believe that looks good. I'm gonna round the corners next with the fillet command right here. And we're going to round over. It says in our directions all roundovers are 1 millimeter. So it only labeled it once, but you can assume they're all the same thing. Alright, so I'm going to click on one of these with the fillet command on. And if it doesn't say 1, I need you to type 1 and hit enter. And let's round all of these corners. Okay, you have a lot of clicking to do here to make this happen. Yep, feel free to do all the outside corners, inside corners, everything that you can here. Okay, this not only looks good when you get done, but it also makes your project a lot stronger to have these in the corners. It resists breaking. We don't want the plastic to snap when we get there. You might get into this step here and realize that you forgot to trim some stuff. And that's me. I forgot to trim some lines here in the middle. So I'm going to go back and fix those so that I can go on and fillet them. Fillet will not work if they're not trimmed up. Alright, I think I've got it here. Oops, there's a fillet that... Not sure how that happened. There we go, something got goofed up. But okay, I think I'm back. So all of my corners are filleted at 1 millimeter. Okay, inside and outside. If that looks good, you can hit Finish Sketch. Okay, if you find any errors, hit pause this video, go back and fix them before you go on. I'm going to hit Extrude at this point, and our directions tell us that we are to extrude this. It looks like 5 millimeters according to that view right there. So I'll click inside of the object, but I'm not going to pick the cutouts. So just pick the area that you want to keep and type 5 for depth and press enter. Okay, if that looks good to you, you can hit the check mark. Okay, and just confirm that everything is on track at this point. In my opinion, it's looking good, so I think I'm going to keep going here. Alright, next up, we need to draw this upper part where our bolt is going to go through and attach the arm to. Okay, so we're going to draw a rectangle, we'll do a half circle, we got to cut a hole out of this thing. If you zoom in and look at this thing, there's kind of a square hole right here. that's set in. The bolts that we are using on the head of the bolt, there's a square inset that we have to make room for. Alright, that square is 8 millimeters by 8 millimeters. It looks like our circle has a diameter of 22. Looks like it's 16 millimeters up to the center of this hole. And it looks like we should draw this from the center of this edge, so somehow we've got to get a plane right in the middle of our object. So, back to Onshape. Alright, I'm going to spin this thing around. We need to make a plane that we can draw on right here. Right now there's nothing for us to draw this on, so now that you're out of your sketch and you've got one extrusion so far, you're in 3D. Head to the plane tool and pick plane. Alright, I need to pick actually I back up. I'm going to cancel that. Let's do an offset plane. Change my mind. Alright, so let's hit plane. Let's pick this surface, even though this is not the final destination. Let's pick that, and let's offset this thing. If you remember earlier, the original rectangle was 100 millimeters, so let's go halfway in. Let's change this to be 50 right there. Okay, so there's a plane just hovering there, just an imaginary plane, and hit the check mark. So now, when we go to sketch, hit your sketch button, be sure to pick that vertical plane right there. So now we're drawing on that space. You can see the bigger sketch shows up here. Alright, so when you go to this view, I hit the right view. Okay, we're drawing in the middle of the object at this point. Alright, let's grab the rectangle, corner rectangle tool, and let's start right here in the kind of in this area. Okay, notice it's not able to pick on the 3D object, so just guess. Give me a rectangle that's approximately right there. Okay, we're going to use the dimension tool to pull it over there. Okay, so make sure you can use that midpoint right there of the object to this corner of the rectangle. Go straight down. We have an X measurement and a Y measurement to do, so make sure you're straight down, and I'm going to type 0, enter. And it should pull it over. And notice mine's hovering. I need to pull it down so it's exactly right on that. So we need 0 and 0. Okay, so we are truly, our rectangle's truly on the corner right there. Alright, now for actual rectangular measurements. Alright, we said earlier that this rectangle's 16 millimeters tall. And let's see, how deep is this going to be? It's going to be 22, so 16 up by 22 wide. 16 by 22. Okay, so let's do 22 on top. 22, enter. And 16 is the vertical, going up and down right there, and it's all locked to that corner. I'm going to hit, actually no, I'm not going to hit finish sketch. We still need to draw. You could either do an arc or you could do a center point circle. Somehow you need to go to the middle here and draw a circle that comes all the way back. So again, I picked the middle of the top edge. I picked that. If you'd like to, you can trim the lower part of the circle, and you can trim these lines out. These are not needed right there. Okay, so our shape is starting to show up. If you want to tilt it so you can kind of see if things look right, just confirm that they're all correct. Alright, to me it's looking good so far. Alright, let's cut out a hole for the bolt. Alright, I'm going to click right here in the center. And our bolt, let's see, we better look this up. That hole, did I give you a hole size? I should have given you a hole size. It's missing. So, it says down here on the next part that it's a diameter of 7, which would be the same thing. Alright, so let's use 7. Alright, so would you type 7 or use the dimension tool and click on the circle. Make sure that that says diameter 7. Okay, that looks good to me. Alright, let's finish that sketch so we can extrude it. We just need to know how far to extrude this thing. Right here it says it's 28 millimeters. So let's do that. Extrude, pick your shape, and I'm going to make mine go the other way. So it starts at the midpoint and goes that direction, and change 25 to say 28 for a depth. Right there. Alright, our bolt is going to be poking back through towards us, so I'm going to flip this around. We're going to do one last sketch on the other side, and that's going to be the end of this part. So let's hit sketch, and let's cut out that square hole on this end for our bolt. So sketch this end, grab the rectangle tool, but grab the center point rectangle this time, not corner. And we're going to start this thing right in the center of that circle. Just take a guess, and then let's dimension this thing. It is 8 by 8. Right there, so just barely larger. And notice it's still there. It's very faint at this point. Let's extrude and choose remove this time. So we're actually going to use that shape, and we're going to cut out. And let's see what our directions say here. Do they tell us how deep to go? Oh boy, I should have told you how deep to go. It's probably 3 or 4 millimeters. Looks like I missed that measurement on here. So Mr. Roman made a mistake. Let's go 3 millimeters in. Actually, let's go 4. Let's go 4 millimeters in just to be safe. I'd rather cut out too much than not enough. Alright, your final step then, now that things are looking real good, is to color it, and we do want to fillet these top edges so that they aren't so sharp. So let's do a 3D fillet this time. Alright, click on that. Let's do, if it doesn't say 1 millimeter radius, change it to say 1 right there. And let's pick all of these edges. Okay, let's round this thing over. Looks like you only have to pick once inside the triangles. From what I can tell, I'm just only going to do the top edges, and I'm going to leave the rest alone underneath. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. And let's add some color to this thing. Okay, and then we're done. Oh no, I'm sorry, we got to put our name on it yet. Let's see. Let's do one more sketch. Let's put your name right about here. Okay, and let's sketch on this flat surface. Grab the text tool. Just draw kind of a small text box. Type either your first or your last name so we know who you are. And mine came out way bigger than I thought it would be. So I need to transform it so it's smaller. And would you guys find where it says linear pattern here? It's hiding underneath linear pattern. It's called transform. Looks like 2 boxes right there. Okay, transform. Pick on the dashed edge of this box. And I'm going to grab this dot, and I guess I'm going to grab the triangle and shrink it down. Okay, hit the check mark. There we go, that looks good, but now I'm off the object, so I need to transform again. And I'm going to use the arrow tool right here to move it. Okay, and you can use either one if you need to slide it around and hit the check mark when you're ready. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. Finish your sketch by hitting the green check mark, and let's extrude it one last time. And let's do a remove, and let's do a 1 millimeter depth remove. And I'm going to make sure I pick so all of my letters get selected. Okay, you can see my text is going in. Make yours do the same and hit the check mark. There we go. So now we can tell who's the owner of this when it comes out of the machine. And let's add some color, even though this won't necessarily be the color that you print at. So right click on the word part 1 down here. Left click on edit appearance, and I'm just going to pick light blue or aqua, something like that. I guess that's not light blue. There's light blue. And hit the check mark. Okay, that part is done. Okay, if you haven't already, go down here to the tab, that you just drew on, right click and hit rename, and would you change that to say base and hit enter. Okay, so base is the name of that tab. Alright. Alright, to move on here, go ahead and hit the plus symbol down here in the lower left hand corner, and let's create another part studio. Okay, so you got a blank screen to work from. I'm going to change my directions to be looking at the arm now. Okay, and we're going to be drawing this front view this time instead of a top view. Okay, and I'll give you a chance to just kind of make a crazy pattern in here to save some space, save some plastic, excuse me, and just make it look a little more interesting than just a kind of a blank box. Let's see. Found another measurement that Mr. Roman missed. My extrusion here should say 25 millimeters, so 15 plus 5 plus 5 is 25, so that's missing, but just assume it's 25 for me. But let's draw this shape together. We're going to start by drawing a few circles, and then we'll space them out by 100 millimeters. Then we'll come back and add this next. Later on we'll do this cutout. This part shouldn't take us as long as the first one did. So, alright, so some numbers to remember. The first circles we're going to draw are going to be 7 millimeters diameter, and then the outer one, I know it says 9, but it's actually a diameter of 18. That means radius. Radius is half. So 7 and 18 are the two sets of circles, and then we'll space them by 100 from there. Okay, here we go. So press sketch, and this time choose front as your surface for sketching. Alright, I'm going to hit the circle tool, center point circle, and let's start this thing right on 0, 0 again. Draw a couple of circles. Alright, and let's dimension these things to be the outer one to be 18 and the inner one to be 7. Okay, that looks good to me. Okay, let's do the same thing over here to the right somewhere. Make sure your little guide right here, if you hover and you go way out here, notice the dash line shows up. That is locking you into horizontal, so please use that. Otherwise you have to use the constraints, the horizontal constraint, which is fine, to lock it in. And let's draw another circle. Same thing, dimension them 7 on the inside, 18 on the out. Okay, confirm that that's all correct, and now we're going to space them out from the center point to center point to be exactly 100. Okay, so my guess was pretty close there. Alright, so far so good. Okay, back to our directions. We've got this done. So it looks like we need to offset this. We need to draw a line and then offset down to 6. Alright, so let's draw some lines in. You'll need to turn on your line tool with the L button and make sure you zoom in here and make sure you are picking the very top edge. Okay, we are looking for a point that's known as tangent. Okay, zoom way in there. And just to show you how to fix it in case you mess up, I'm going to intentionally put this way off for you right here. Okay, it's connected, but it's not in the right spot. Alright, you can go up to the constraint option right here and look for the word tangent. Tangent is where the line only crosses in one spot, so let's make this line and this circle tangent to each other. It'll find that spot for you. Okay, and even if you think you're right over here, I would do the same thing and lock it in. Okay, so it looks like I didn't need to. I must have got it right the first time. So if you get a red line, just hit undo. Undo arrows right over here. Okay, so anyways, make sure you are tangent like that. Okay, we're going to offset that line down by 6 millimeters. And it's currently 5, so change that to say 6. Enter, left click, checkbox. Okay, let's do some cleaning up here, and then we can extrude this thing. So use your scissors to trim off. Leave the inner circle alone. You can trim the outer one like that. Clean that up. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. We do want to fillet this inside corner because it's sharp. And let's see if 1 is still the radius. Yep, it is. So you can left click that, click on this, left click, and hit the checkbox when you're done. Okay, I'd say that looks good. And I believe you can finish your sketch at this time and tilt it and make sure things are looking good. Okay, if not, go back and correct them. In your sketch, you can always double click and reopen sketches and fix them. Okay, let's hit the extrude button to go to 3D and pick your shape, but do not pick the center of those holes. Okay, we said that our extrusion that I forgot about should say 25 millimeters right there. And that is our default already, so that is set. If it's not, type 25 and hit the checkbox. Okay, looking good. Alright, if you'd like to round your corners, this would be a good time to do it, or you can do it at the end. I'm going to fillet all these outer corners. Let's stick with 1 again. Just kind of take some of the sharpness off. Let's leave the center holes alone, but just the outer edges is what we care about on both sides. Spin it around, make sure you got everything. Alright, and the last thing now is we're going to do a little decorative cutout, because this is kind of boring looking part. I mean, yes, it'll work just fine, but we can save some plastic. We're going to do just kind of a random, interesting pattern that I found. So we're going to sketch. Let's sketch up here on the box, on the top. Let's turn to the top view, and let's sketch a big old rectangle. Whoops, that is the center point rectangle. Undo. I'm going to switch to corner rectangle. You could do center point rectangle. Okay, let's dimension this thing from the very outer edge to the line. Let's make that 5. Outer edge of the part to the rectangle is 5 again down here. Alright, and why don't we make this thing, let's see, that was 100. Let's subtract, why don't we make the whole thing, let's see what 80 looks like. 80 long. Alright, and we need to get this thing to center itself, so let's try a constraint to do this. Let's pick the midpoint of the rectangle, and let's make it let's see, should we use vertical? Let's try vertical. So let's try, can we find the midpoint? Will they give me? No, they don't. Alright, never mind that idea. Let's try, let's dimension from this line right above the circle. Let's dimension from there to here. Let's make that 10. That should center things nicely. So it's 10 away here, 80. Yep, that looks centered. So if yours doesn't look centered, make some adjustments to get it there. Okay, or ask for help. Okay, because we're going to be punching a hole through this thing. We don't want to be sending a hole down into this area. We only want it to be kind of in the mid region here. All right, so there's our outline. Okay, go back to your top view and zoom in. Okay, here's where it gets a little random. There's no exact answer I'm looking for you to do. I'm looking for you to draw somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 9 crossing lines. Here's what I mean by that. I'm going to grab the line tool, and I'm going to try and draw some lines. None of these are going to be parallel to each other. Okay, and make them cross the entire rectangle. Hit L again to turn on the line tool. This is your random crisscross pattern. I think these look more interesting when they're not parallel to each other. So, oops. Okay, so take your time, hit the L tool, L button, make these crisscross kind of randomly, and go beyond the box when you do it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far. 6. And I'm going to do a 7. So I'm going to stop after 7. 9. You can keep going to 9 if you'd like to, but that's good enough for me. All right, so now we're going to offset these all by 1 millimeter. Okay, so these are so we can make some 1 millimeter wide framing in here. So press your offset button. Okay, and let's click on a line. Change it to say 1. Okay, and keep going. Hit the O button to turn the next one on. It'd be really nice if 1 millimeter would stay as the default setting, but you have to do it every time it appears. Yep, goes back to 5, type 1, enter, left click, green checkbox. So kind of the same routine we've done in other steps. Okay, you decide if you want which way you want the line to go, inside or outside, when you offset it. Okay. If your lines don't go to the outside, you'll be using the extend tool to extend them later. I'm hoping to just trim these down and clean them up and then extrude a hole here is where we're going with all this. Okay, so a little bit of work here to get through all these. If you'd like to change it up and do a 2 instead of a 1, 2 is a little thicker than a 1. If you, be my guest. You're welcome to do that. There's nothing special about 1 millimeter. So I did two of the 2s. The rest are 1s for mine personally. Okay, looks like that one's going to be a little short, so I'm going to have to extend that one. Extend again is under the trim button if you need that. Okay, so mine looks like I've got all my lines offset. They're all extending beyond the rectangle. So I'm going to turn on trim, scissors, and I'm going to clean this thing up. Okay, and make sure you cut the outer box where these lines come together so they join. Okay, you have to use your imagination a little bit here, especially when this thing gets a little messy here in the middle. Alright, looks like I might have trimmed one too many here, so I'm going to extend that mistake that I made. This one goes to there. This goes to here. So take your time, fix up any mistakes you made. You can see that I made a few myself here, and I'm just cleaning them up now. Alright, so I think I'm just about done here. It's sometimes a little hard to tell. It leaves a line behind. Even after you've trimmed it, it kind of leaves a construction line in place. That gets a little bit hard to look at. But if you finish your sketch and kind of hover, you'll see what's working and what the general outline looks like. And feel free to finish your sketch and extrude. Now we're going to be using the remove function to punch these out. So you're going to be picking all the little crazy shapes you just made. Since the material's already there, you're picking the removal at this point, which is kind of fun. There we go. Once you've got it all, you can hit the green check mark. If it doesn't go all the way through, you can pull the arrow down to extend it a little bit deeper. Alright, so there's what my wild pattern is going to look like. So make sure you've got at least 7 lines, and it looks something like that. Alright, so that part is about done. So I'm going to add my name. I'm going to add some color. So right click on part 1, edit appearance. I'll do a light green this time, just to be different. Okay, so far we've got our base and we've got our arm. I do need to add the name on here, so let's hit sketch and pick up here in this flat area, and you'll need to find the text tool, create a small text box, type your name, first or last, it's your choice. And it always comes out big. I don't know why that is. But go to transform. We're going to rotate this and we're going to decrease its size. So click on an edge after you've got transform on. Rotate is this kind of outer circular dot. So I'm going to go until I hit 90 degrees, or you can type 90. And then the outer triangle is the scale tool. So I'm just going to shrink this down plenty small. I need to move it in 2 directions to get mine. So you do what you need to do to get yours. I'm looking at this light blue rectangle right here. And once you think you've got it, hit the green check mark. And if you don't quite get it, you can always hit transform again and move it again. And let's extrude 1 millimeter and do remove, solid remove, 1 millimeter. And of course, pick your name. And once it looks like it's going down, hit the green check mark and call that good. Right there. Okay, so part 2, or the arm, is done for us. Okay, and there's that. And I'm going to rename mine to be arm. Okay, go ahead and hit the plus sign again and create a part studio for the next piece. And let's rename it right away. Let's call it the shelf. So right click on the tab name, choose rename, and type shelf. So that's all done. Okay, if we go look at our directions, our last part here, our shelf is kind of a J type shape. We'll draw the J first and extrude that across. We'll add the outer part for the hardware next, and then I'll have you pick an image and I'll have you extrude whatever logo you would like, something simple. Okay, if you don't know, just pick the saber. That's fine. You can search for Shakopee sabers if you like, or I can drop I'll put a file right in here and you can copy and save that. So, all right. So some numbers to remember here. It looks like our J shape is 80 millimeters tall. I'm going to do 20 millimeters wide, but you will need to measure your actual phone for this part. Okay, these measurements are based on my phone, my Google Pixel, with its big old case on it. So 80, thickness of 20, and my width is going to be 78, it looks like. Okay, you can change these numbers, the ones with question marks. You even change the 78 if that was too wide or too narrow for yours. Alright, so these numbers aren't locked in stone here. Okay, I'm going to use the right side picture, right side's plane for drawing the sketch to make this one happen for us. Alright, here we go. So 80 by 20, and the thickness is 3 here by the looks of it. So, alright, let's do a sketch. Let's pick the right plane. Let's turn to the right, and let's draw this thing. Alright, as usual, grab the rectangle tool. Start in the corner at 0, 0. Alright, let's do a skinny rectangle this way. Let's do a skinny rectangle this way. And start in this corner, skinny rectangle up. Right there. Okay, let's do some dimensioning. Okay, our height we said was 80. Is that right? Yep, 80 is correct. Okay, and then we're going to go 3 thick. Okay, this one for me is 20. Again, yours might be slightly different. Okay, because this is 20 millimeters minus 3 for this. So this is actually 14 millimeters of space here in the middle. So just be aware of that. That's what my phone needed. And if you want a nice tight fit, you can adjust that. And I forgot how tall this is. Did it say, oh, I could use that measurement here. Let's make a decision about that one. That looks like about 6. Let's put 6 for the height. Nah, I changed my mind. Let's make it 8. Alright, just to be safe. Alright, so that should be good. We've got our thicknesses taken care of. Looks like the bottom thickness is not taken care of, so let's do that one. Click the 2 lines. Yep, it was 2.7, so change that to 3. Then they're all uniform. Okay, before we finish sketch, let's do some trimming. You can trim these lines right here, trim these. We'll also do some rounding over. Let's do a 1 millimeter round over on all of these corners here. That one's giving me trouble. So I'll just keep going. I'll ignore that one. Yeah, that one doesn't want to go either. And I'm going to do just this one. Right there. Okay, the backside, we'll come back to those later. We might do those out in the 3D world. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Alright, let's finish that sketch then. And let's extrude that. Okay, I'm going to make mine go in, and we said that is 78 for mine. Again, yours might be slightly different, but it's probably somewhat close to 78, I would guess. Okay, so there's our J. All right, let's do the hardware part up here. So this thing looks like we have a radius of 10. So this thing is 20 millimeters across, is what that means. Let's see. Square, yep. So let's use the same measurements that we did up here. 16 by 22. Yeah, let's do 16 by 22. Alright, so let's do that from right here. Alright, let's start another sketch. Let's put it right on this edge. And let's get a rectangle going from this back corner. Again, we didn't round that off. That was on purpose. Okay, just draw a rectangle and we'll dimension this thing. Alright, and again, just making sure of our measurements. 22 by 16. Okay. So let's see, 22 would be, oops, you gotta turn on dimension. 22 would be here. In this case, the vertical, and 16 is there, and we're going to do a half circle this way. So I'm having to think because our parts are on their side here compared to before. You can either use the arc tool or grab a center point circle. Look for the center of this point to pop up and just pull a circle back to the edge and then trim what you don't need right there. Okay, that's looking good to me. I'm going to put the dimension back on this thing so it turns black. Alright, time for some holes here going through this thing. We are going to need a circle right here. That should be a diameter of 7, I believe. Same as before, and then the square will be 8 later on. Okay, oops. So do a dimension of 7 for that circle. Okay, we'll come back to the square here in a bit. Alright, our extrusion. So finish your sketch, extrude, make sure it goes in, and we are going to go a distance of 40 millimeters this time. And the hole goes all the way through, of course. Alright, so now we need to make a little cutout so that the head of our bolt doesn't stick out to the side of our project. So this is kind of a hollow cavity back here for the head of the bolt to sit in. Let's see, can we see that on our... you can kind of see it on that picture. Alright, so let's sketch right on this surface. Let's draw a circle from the center of the existing hole. Okay, and that diameter looks like it's this outer one. It's 16. Enter. Finish your sketch. And we'll extrude, click on remove. And now we just need to know our depth. Our depth of removal, it says right here, is 13 millimeters deep. Okay, and then later the square will be, looks like 17 millimeters deep. So 13 is our number this time. 13, enter. Right there, so there's some space for the bolt. Alright, let's sketch again, still out here on this outer surface. Okay, this time when we grab the rectangle tool, don't grab the corner one, grab the center. Okay, and we are looking for the center of this circle right here. And this will be 7 by 7, so type 7, enter, 7, enter. Like so. Finish that sketch, and you should have a square that's floating out here now. And we're going to extrude this one to 17 and use the remove option. 17, pick the square. Alright, you might have noticed it gave me a red error there just a moment ago. Alright, I ended up flipping it back and forth a couple of times, typed in 17 again, and eventually the red error went away. I'm not sure why that was, but anyways, there's 17. It's going to cut a little further in. That's for the square inside head of the bolt, so make sure it's sticking in just a little bit beyond the previous hole. And hit the check mark. Alright, we're getting closer here. Okay, we still have a hole for your charging port to go, and we need to put a logo on this thing to finish it. Alright, so lastly, let's sketch inside of here. And we're going to put a rectangle right down here in the bottom. You can start over on this edge. Oops, I have the center point rectangle pick corner for me. Pick over on this edge and bring it to this edge, so it kind of locks into those two lines. So now it'll make dimensioning a lot easier for you. So pick from one end to the first line, and it looks like it's 25 on both ends, and 12 would be the width, but you probably won't have to do that. 25 is what we're looking for there, and from the right end, 25. Enter. And you can try dimensioning this, but you might run into trouble. Yeah, mine's already 12, so it turns gray, so meaning it's not necessary, it's over dimensioned. Okay, you can hit the green check mark, tilt it, and let's extrude that and remove. Okay, so there's your charging port. Alright, let's see, let's round any last corners now. Let's use the 3D fillet out here. So there's your fillet button. Go ahead and pick your edges, and you can fillet as much as you can, as much as it allows. So try to get all the remaining edges that have not been rounded. It's okay if you do this one or don't do it. I'm not worried about that one. That's where the arm is going to get connected anyways. So I'll hit the check mark there so things are nice and rounded. Alright, let's add some color and then we'll do the image. So right click on part 1, choose edit. I'm going to pick a bright, that's hard to look at. That's too much. Whatever, pick any color you like. I'm going to go with a light color so we can see it a little bit easier. Alright, I'm going to head to the internet and I'm going to grab a Google image. So head to Google, you can search for images or press that button. I'm going to grab a Shakopee Sabres logo. Okay, black and white if possible. Whatever logo you choose, make sure it's nice and simple. It doesn't have a lot of detail. Like the baseball logo, this is way too much detail. Please don't do something like that. Just a basic S like this is pretty easy. The simpler it is, the easier it is. Yes, so I'm just going to grab a saber here. Click on that. I'm going to right click on it, right on the image, and left click on Save Image As. And it will automatically save in your Downloads folder. So Saber head logo, hit Save. Okay, so now that I have my Saber logo saved, I am going to start a new sketch. I'm going to click right on the face of our shelf, and we'll do a little cutout here. The big things to notice is that you do not want to cut out right in front of this piece. We kind of got to stay down low here, so let me go back to the other side like this. So I'm going to kind of stay down in this region. Alright, so you're inside of a sketch, you pick this surface, and there's a button right here. It probably says Insert DXF. Go underneath that, hit the menu, and do Insert Image. You will need to hit the Import button. Hit Import. go pick the saber head that you saved, hit open, and it should load it up right here. So now when you click on that, you can click and drag. Oops, I'm not sure why that popped up. Let's try it again. Let's click and drag. There we go. A box for this. You can drag it around. I'm just making sure I'm not running into that part back there. I'll drag it up. Do your best to center it. Okay, we need to trace this thing. Unfortunately, Onshape does not trace it for you, so you will need to go find this tool called Spline. Spline is a nice smooth curved line. Alright, and we're only going to trace the outside edge. So pick a corner of your image. Okay, the more clicks you make, the smoother it turns out. Okay, I'm going to go around the red tail here of the saber. Turn the corner again. More clicks means smoother, especially in the corners. I do a couple of extra clicks to help me out. So take a moment here and trace your shape. And you can probably guess we're going to be extruding this shape here in a moment. So to get that sharp turn right there, I did an extra click in the corner. And make sure you're right on the dot so you get a nice perfectly closed shape. Alright, I believe you can move some of these dots around if you hit escape and turn off the spline tool. I believe you can grab onto the dots. Can you move them? Maybe not. I might be wrong on that. Well, hopefully you got it right the first time. Oh, you can. This dot is locked to the edge of the picture. That's why I couldn't do it. Alright, well, I'll leave that one alone. Alright, I'm going to do I could do a cutout here in the tooth. However, this is all going to get removed. That's not going to matter anyways right there. We won't have a floating white piece in the middle of this when we cut it out. So, alright, so I'm going to hit the green check mark. I'm done sketching. You should be able to see your outline if you hover over it or click on it. I'm going to extrude and pick the middle of my saber. Make sure it's solid and make sure you pick remove. Right there. Okay, and hit the check mark if all goes well. Alright, and lastly, I'm going to put my name one more time on this piece, front or back, it's up to you where you want to put it. And that is transform. I'm sorry, no, it's not transform, it's text. Guess I'm getting tired here. Type your name. Finish your sketch and extrude at 1 millimeter removal. Alright, the final thing to do then is to assemble these together and make sure they all work. Alright, so let's head over to our assembly tab, which should already be created for you. Okay, and we're going to put all these parts together. So head to the insert button right here and go ahead and click on your arm and just set that down somewhere, it doesn't matter where. Your base, you'll need one of those, and your shelf. click, and click. Okay, now for the hardware, that'd be the nuts and bolts and washers. I need you to head over to standard content. Okay, we need 2 bolts, 2 hex bolts. Let's see, we need, so bolts and screws, class is hex bolts, component, let's just use just a hex cap screw, and size, select quarter-20, quarter 20 as it's known. That's a pretty standard bolt. And let's pick 2.5 inches of length, thread length 2.5 as well, and hit the insert button. Okay, and you're going to need 2 of these. So click, go back, hit insert again, and click a second bolt of those. Alright, next up we need a flat washer. Okay, so change category from bolts and screws to be washers. Let's see, type A plain washers is your class. Type A flat washer. Size quarter, yep, I believe that's right. Narrow stainless steel plain. Alright, and hit insert. You'll need 2 of those. Okay, just set them anywhere nearby. We need lock washers next, so click on washers. Stay in washers. Instead of type A plain washer for class, change it to be spring lock washer. And you can grab extra duty spring lock washer, and 1/4 inch is your size, stainless, zinc, insert. So stick 2 of those in there. And lastly, you're going to need 2 hex nuts. So go to change class, or category to be nuts. Class is hex nuts, component hex nut, size quarter-20 again. And let's insert 2 of those. Alright, and let's let the assembly begin. You can hit the green check mark, all your parts are there. Alright, let's stick our bolts in place first. Okay, these aren't quite the bolts we're going to be using. The ones we have in real life have a square head under here that will fit into that square hole, but that's alright. Alright, so go ahead and hit the revolute mate, because these are going to revolve or rotate. Click that. Rotate and zoom underneath here, and would you pick the underside of the head and make sure the center mark gets selected like this. That's the selection I'm looking for. Head over here. Alright, choose the circle. If you have to flip it around, you can. Something like that. Okay, this bolt is sticking in a little bit too far, so I'm going to offset this back out. Check the offset button. Z is the blue direction, so let's push this thing back out. Let's see, let's try 5 millimeters. See what that looks like. It went the wrong direction, so let's do -5. Enter. There we go. That looks fine. It's pretty close to what we need. You can hit check mark. After that, revolute is still on. Okay, let's revolute the arm right on here. So let's revolute the end of the hole. And let's go to this circle right there. Okay, check it, flip it if you need to, spin it, something like that. Hit the check mark. Okay, and then we're going to put a flat washer, then a lock washer. So zoom in, and we're looking for this flat style, not the kind that has the cut in it. That's a lock washer. We need this kind. So again, revolute is still on. Pick the inner circle. Stick that to right here. Okay, mine's backwards, so I'm going to flip it. Do that if you need to. Green check mark to save it. And then a lock washer goes next. Same thing. Circle. Stick it right there. Flip it if you need to. Check mark. And lastly, the bolt goes on. The hex nut goes on last. inner circle, right there, check mark. Alright, so that's what those parts look like all stacked up. Alright, now if you grab these and try to rotate it, they're all going to slide around here. The problem that people tend to forget about, and it took me a while to learn this, is that we have to lock one object down in space. So let's lock this base down. So if you go over to your parts here and hover, okay, wait for your base to highlight, and if you would right click on it, so mine is the second one, yours might not be that one, so right click on it and left click on fix. Fix locks this, so you can't move this anymore, it doesn't go anywhere. You should be able to pull on this if your revolutes were done correctly, right there. Okay, so that's going well. Alright, and lastly we are going to do this one more time. Alright, this time we're going to stick the bolt all the way down inside this recessed hole. Okay, back to revolute again. These are all revolute mates. And we're going to choose that inner circle. Flip it if you need to. Okay, that looks good to me. Check mark. Okay, this time I'm going to stick this. This will rotate and flip around. We're going to put it right there. Alright, so let's do this to this right here. Something went wrong. I'm going to try it again. Revolute. Strange. Okay, there it goes. It took me a couple tries. Flip it around. I'm not sure what was wrong with it, but it's working now. Okay, and I'm going to pull this around. You should be able to rotate things because we have the base fixed. If you have not fixed your base, you will not be able to do this rotation that I'm doing. Okay, that's looking good. Alright, I just need to get my flat washer on next, which is this one. Lock washer. And the hex nut last. Alright, and that should be the end of your assembly right there. That is the finished product. Okay, again, I don't care which colors you put on there. That doesn't matter. If you change your mind, you want to go back and adjust colors, you can go back to your original parts and right click on part 1 and edit the appearance. Maybe I don't like the ugly yellow that I just drew. Onto my shelf, I can right click, part 1, edit, whatever, you can do whatever colors you like there, but our printer will just print whatever colors are available. Okay, and the colors should update. There it is, purple updated there. Okay, alright, now to actually prepare your files to send to the printer. Okay, you'll go back to your original parts. So let's go back to the base. Okay, and right on the tab down here, would you right click for me on the tab and left click on export. Okay, and you'll do this for all 3 of your individual part studios. So base, leave base there, and would you add your name to it? So whatever your name is, make sure STL is selected. We're preparing this file now to be sent to the printer. Okay, make sure millimeter units are selected. All you should have to do is type your name and hit export. Alright, and it does put it in your downloads folder, which is not where you need to save it. So you will need to click on the folder. I would right click and copy it and head all the way out to student share and paste it into the folder that I have set up for this class, whatever hour this is, and for the project. Alright, and that is the end of the project.